Hey, I'm Jay Royster, and today we have a very special guest, my close friend, Jonathan Jones, senior NFL reporter with CBS Sports. We're gonna talk about the NFL and the Carolina Panthers, so let's check it out. So today we have a very special guest, Jonathan Jones, and normally this is a commercial real estate focused series, but we're gonna switch it up today and talk a little NFL, a little Carolina Panthers, and what better person than Jonathan Jones. So Jonathan, thanks for sitting down and talking with us today.
I appreciate it. I came here thinking we were going to talk commercial real estate, so I've spent like all night researching. But yeah, now that I know it's NFL, I'm ready to go.
Great. Well, I'm going to call you JJ because I've known you for 2 decades now.
Yeah.
We grew up together. But for those who don't know, give us a little bit of background on yourself and your career in journalism and where you are today with CBS Sports.
We grew up in Shelby. From Shelby, I went to UNC Chapel Hill, wrote for the Daily Tar Heel there. Got my start actually at the Gaston Gazette before that. And then interned at Sports Illustrated, and then wound up getting a job with the Charlotte Observer, covering the Carolina Panthers back in 2012. And then from there in 2016, I joined Sports Illustrated, was still based in Charlotte as a national writer for them. Did that for 3 years. 2019, CBS came calling. So I've been with CBS Sports as a senior NFL reporter with them since then, loving every minute of it.
Well, great. Well, let's talk about the state of the Carolina Panthers. Last year, there's so many changes with the organization and player personnel, coaching. Last year, we drafted all defensive players. This year, really the prize pick was J.C. Horn.
Yeah.
But after that, we really kind of went back later in the draft and looked for more value instead of selecting 1 or 2 top players other than JC. But how would you assess where the organization is and kind of, what our team will be like going into this season?
I am certainly willing to give Matt Rule going into his second year, certainly willing to give Scott Fitterer, the new GM, time to sort of carry out their vision. This was a team that didn't finish well last year, right? They struggled in those 1-score games, and they didn't get the job done in 2020, but what really did you expect? They ultimately finished out the season with a top 10 pick and going into the year with a first-year head coach, with a roster that wasn't that talented. You would have said they're going to finish with a top 10 pick. So now it's year 2 of Matt Rule, who really is running the thing. I did like what they did in the draft. I did think that they fell a little bit in love with J.C. Horn, who is a fantastic corner. They think that he was by far the best corner in the draft. But what they did looking at value on day 2 and trading back and the guys that they got, like Christensen, the offensive lineman out of BYU, who a lot of people loved, but knew he was gonna be a day 2 guy, or Terrence Marshall Jr., if his injury is gonna be fine, the wide receiver out of LSU. There was really good value if those guys turn out well. This is not a team that I believe is gonna be in the playoffs in 2021.
Yep.
And I think that's okay. Let's hope that Sam Darnold is going to be better than what he was with the Jets.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a minute, because obviously Bridgewater's out.
Yeah.
Darnold is in, but we did pass over Mac Jones, who could have been the 3rd overall pick, as well as the Ohio State quarterback, Justin Fields. But how do you foresee this playing out?
Darnold, he dealt with it in New York he dealt with the spotlight. He dealt with multiple offensive coordinators, 2 head coaches, including Adam Gase, who very much was not very good for his career, 2 general managers, a depleted roster, a talent deficient roster. He didn't have the greatest wide receivers. In fact, you could argue he had some of the worst wide receivers. But still, you want just a little bit more out of him. You don't want, well, that's that one play every 3 games that makes you say that's why he was the 3rd overall pick. And it's about valuing the football. Jameis Winston turned it over a lot at FSU, turned it over a lot in the pros. Now, do you live with it if your quarterback throws for 5,000 yards like Jameis did a couple years ago? You ultimately probably can live with that. But if you aren't getting that sort of production from Sam, but he's still not valuing the football, that's ultimately going to hurt your team at the most important position, not just in that sport, but in all sports.
So let's talk about the NFC South and how we're going to stack up. Obviously, Brady and the Bucs. I mean, when is that guy going to stop playing? Talking about age, he's probably he's double Sam Darnold's age almost.
Yeah, almost.
But the Bucs are clearly going to be a contender, or this year at least. And then obviously the Saints are always good. They're always strong. The Falcons may be in a little bit of rebuild mode, it appears. But how do you think we'll shake out in the NFC South?
When the schedule came out, I'm already looking like it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up to New England to face the Patriots, right? Brady and Belichick. I'm going to hop in a car, go to LaGuardia, hop on a plane to Providence, Rhode Island, rent a car, and go to Gillette Stadium for that, 8 o'clock game that night. I'm not missing that game.
That's going to be a great game.
I'm not missing. I don't care. I don't care what happens. I don't care if there's another pandemic. I'm not missing that game.
Yeah, I'll be watching it. I won't be there like you, but that's going to be an exciting game. A lot of press leading up to that, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, the Bucs are very clearly going to be the NFC favorites, right?
Yeah.
And they returned everybody, all 22 starters, for the first time in almost like 50 years. You're not going to really compete with them if you're the Panthers. What you want to do is compete for number 2 and hope that you can get into that wild card. What are the Saints going to be without Drew Brees? I don't know who they're even going to start at quarterback, and I don't think the Saints know who they're going to start at quarterback. I don't know if it's going to be Jameis or Taysom. Now look at the Falcons, and they have such an old roster, a veteran roster, a highly paid roster, but that defense is putrid. I think the Panthers can absolutely compete for number 2 in the NFC South. Will that be good enough to get a playoff spot? Because there's 3 wild cards, so you're going to have to go 10-7. 11-6, and that's so weird to say, right?
That's winning a lot of games in the NFL, and 17-game season. That 15-1 run we had in 2015 was a very special run for this city, and the city was really electric that year. I remember every game, just the confidence that we had as fans and the organization, like we felt like we couldn't lose. So it was disappointing that we didn't win the Super Bowl, but it was definitely a special year. But when you look back on that year, what's the one thing that will always stick out to you?
It was so much fun to go over there every single day as a beat writer. That was a difference back then with a beat writer covering a team as opposed to what I do now, where I have to know something about everything in the NFL, right?
Right.
But as a beat writer covering a team, you have to know if the second string right tackle goes down, who's the emergency right tackle? Those are the things that you have to know. You go into the locker room every day and they're winning and having fun, well, they want to talk to you. These dudes were no different. Now remember 2014, and they snuck into the playoffs at 7-8-1. They didn't win a game for 2 months in that year. And those dudes, who were mostly the same guys, hated seeing me in the locker room.
Right.
Then you turn around, you go 7-0, and you beat Seattle, and you beat Green Bay. Oh my gosh. JJ, come here. Turn that microphone on. Let's go. I got to talk to the lead singer of Creed because the linebacker, Ben Jacobs, would Creed bomb people going into practice. And I talked with the Migos because, Cam was doing the dab.
Dab, that's right.
And then you didn't think that they were going to lose. And they lost to the Falcons there in the end of the regular season. And going into that game, you have Peyton Manning, who can't throw the football 7 yards. And they had a fantastic defense, but you weren't stopping Cam. You weren't stopping those guys. I am still not sure the better team won Super Bowl 50.
I was going to say, I think 7 out of 10 games, the Panthers maybe would have beat the Broncos, but that's not the way it goes.
Nope, it's not a series.
It's one game.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about the Panthers now and the changes that have been made with Tepper, formerly Richardson. Richardson clearly had an old school way of doing business. Now Tepper's came in, he's driving revenues through other avenues really. But in your mind, what are some of the biggest differences in ownership styles from Tepper to Richardson?
Ignoring the reasons why Richardson is no longer the owner of the
Correct.
team, right? And just looking at how he was as an owner of the football team, he believed that the stadium was a football stadium. Well, that's a prime piece of real estate, and you're only paying $1 a year for it in your lease. And so why don't you do more with it? And so that's what David Tepper, when he bought the team for $2.2-ish billion, immediately saw that, hey, the way that I can get more money from the Charlotte City Council and from local government is instead of having 10 events in this stadium a year, I now get 17 home MLS games. Now let's make it 27. Now let's add a beer festival. Let's add ACC. Let's add, and ACC was already there, but you go from 10 to 12 events to 30 to 35. It's a lot easier for a local government to cut a check for 50, 100, 150 million dollars, right?
Major tourism generator, major dollars that are coming in and being spent in Charlotte. So let's switch outside of football now. You like beer. You like to drink beer, as do I.
I like beer.
What's your favorite Charlotte brewery and maybe your favorite Charlotte beer? Or just maybe beer in general, but Charlotte brewery as well.
Okay, all right. Charlotte beer, oh boy. It's between the Juicy J from Legion and it's Hop Drop and Roll from Noda. So brewery, for experience, for us, the mid-millennial, it's Suffolk Punch. If you're just talking about beers and the selection of beers, I'm going Noda. I think Noda, top to bottom, has the best number 1 through number 7 beers that I would like. You know, hey, we're out of hop drop and jam session somehow. That's okay. I got it.
Yeah, I think my favorite beer is the Good Morning Vietnam. Is that
Wooden Robot.
Is that basic or generic? I mean, it's a good beer.
Well, I mean, you're a little basic and generic.
At times. But Wooden Robot is not basic. Wooden Robot plays the best music. I like Wooden Robot because of the vibe.
Yeah, they do have a very dope playlist.
And I think the Good Morning Vietnam, maybe it might have a little coffee in it. So
yeah,
gives you a little spunk, like if you're, you know,
and
a little day drink and then want to go out later.
Right, and I'm totally cool with that. I don't drink the coffee flavor when it's cold. Like, I think that coffee just belongs as a hot beverage. That's a hill that I will die on.
So you're not a cold brew guy?
Absolutely not. Will not do it.
How much coffee do you drink in the mornings?
I drink about a pot a day in the mornings, yeah. But as soon as it hits noon, no more coffee.
That's a principle that you'll stand by. So
I'm a very
I can respect that.
person,
But you know, one thing I can't respect about your coffee take,
I know where this is going,
is you believe that gas station coffee from a generic gas station is better than local coffee.
Listen, I didn't know that you were going to go that route. I thought you were going to say that sometimes I microwave day-old coffee.
That's also something I can't get behind.
Well, sometimes you just need a bridge while the coffee's brewing.
Oh, you keep it in the pot?
I keep it in the pot. I mean, the pot.
So you don't clean your pot out after you use...
Every day? No. It's like how you cook, like you put the bacon in there and then sometimes you throw the eggs in there, but you don't clean the whole plate every time. Like sometimes you still want that bacon grease in there, a little bit of bacon grease, right?
Okay.
Well, for me, I still want that yesterday's coffee sort of film in there. I think that is what builds character. So it puts hair on your chest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's suspect and borderline lacking of hygiene. Well, JJ, thanks for sitting down with us today, and look forward to continuing watching you with CBS Sports. And I know you're going to crush it this year, and I hope it's a great NFL season.
Hey, bro, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for watching today, and if you're interested in keeping up with the latest developments in Charlotte, make sure to like and subscribe.